Good morning, students! Today's lesson is on self-discipline. The title of our story is Undisciplined Youngster. What would you think if you were to see a child on the ground, kicking and screaming, throwing a temper tantrum to get their way? Perhaps you would say to yourself, "How awful! What a bad-mannered child," right? Helen was born a healthy and beautiful child. Yet, before she turned 2, she became very ill. Her parents took her to the doctor, and she was given much medication. However, Helen remained blind and deaf for the rest of her life. Now what? The small child, lost in her dark and silent world, acted in a very strange manner. She appeared to be a frightened little animal. Unable to hear, she forgot the few words she used to pronounce prior to falling ill. When she did not get her way, she would throw herself to the ground, kick, mistreat people by biting them, strike her head on furniture and on the floor. She would throw such a tantrum that her little face would end up covered in saliva and tears. Would you not feel sorry for her? Anything would make her furious. She would attack the maid, the dog, her parents, or whoever was nearby. She was able to play only with rag dolls, since those made of porcelain were not safe. Helen's parents sought help at a center for blind people, where they met Anne Sullivan. Anne was blind. However, thanks to surgery, she had limited sight. For that reason, she decided to devote her life to teaching individuals with vision impairments. Helen was almost 7 years old when Anne went to live with the Keller family. Immediately, Anne realized that the little girl was strong, active, and healthy, but so undisciplined. How would she communicate with her? She could not see, did not speak, and did not understand the meaning of things. Then, the determined educator set out to teach one of the most important lessons to her young student: self-discipline. Anne began to forbid Helen from reacting as she pleased whenever she wanted something. With determination, Anne would not give anything to Helen when she pinched herself and threw herself onto the ground. At times, she had to separate her from her parents, since, afraid to upset her, they allowed her to behave as she pleased. However, the teacher was brave and persevering. After Anne had endured numerous struggles, punches, and slaps by Helen, her work began to pay off. One day, they were both at the rear patio of the home pumping water. Anne placed Helen's hand under the cold water, and over her other hand, she slowly spelled the word W-A-T-E-R, water. Then, faster. Helen learned that water meant something cold and moist that dripped through her hands. By that night, Helen understood the meaning of 30 words. That is how the education of Helen Keller began. After having learned how to behave in a disciplined manner, she was soon able to learn the alphabet for blind individuals, Braille, and for those who are deaf, sign language, which facilitated her learning of both reading and writing. However, Helen did not simply want to speak through gestures. She really wished to speak. Applying her self-discipline, she started to practice by tapping with her fingers the vibration of the sound on Anne's throat. Then she would imitate the vibration until she was able to articulate the sound correctly. At the end of the 11th lesson, Anne received a big surprise. The little girl pulled her by the arm and clearly said, "I am no longer mute." Helen learned to read, write, and speak. She also turned out to be very proficient in scholastic subjects. Does it seem difficult to you to be a disciplined student in spite of being able to see or hear? Imagine Helen's effort and discipline. Anne spelled each word on Helen's hand using the sign language alphabet, translating the content of the classes during the entire time she attended school. Helen finished her college studies and throughout her life continued studying to keep herself informed about all significant matters occurring in the world. In recognition of her ability and academic achievements, Helen Keller received many awards, medals, honors, titles, and honorary degrees in 5 continents. She became a writer and a poet, preparing the manuscripts on a Braille typewriter and then transferring them to an ordinary one, The Story of My Life. Song of the Stone Wall, and The World I Live In are some of her works. Helen fought for the cause of blind and of deaf-mute individuals by appearing before governments, holding conferences, writing articles, and above all, by virtue of her personal example of what a person can achieve through self-discipline. The home where she was born, Ivy Green, Alabama, USA, has been transformed into a permanent museum. Anne and Helen's story was made into a film, The Miracle Worker. Helen Keller spent time with a lot of famous figures such as Charlie Chaplin, John F. Kennedy, and Alexander Graham Bell. The readings that served as an inspiration in her life, to which she devoted a large part of her time, included the Bible as well as poetry and philosophy books. Helen Keller died in 1968, just as she was about to turn 88 years old. She was buried at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., USA. That's it for today, students. Hope you understood the story and learned its moral. God bless. Have a great day.